Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Network podcast. Brought to you by PlayNFC.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Network. I'm your host, Greg Ambrosius, and we have a special broadcast tonight. It is the debut Footballguys Championship live stream draft. I'm joined by Tom Kessenich of the NFFC and Sigmund Bloom of Footballguys.com. Sigmund, welcome to the show. Welcome to the first draft of the Footballguys Championship.
Yeah, this is great. And we're excited to be part of the NFFC family and just to bring to the high stakes world all the values and love that everybody associates with football guys. And this is a great time because if you're drafting now, you can't get Alexander Madison in the 6th or 7th round anymore, but there's still edges, right? There's still edges where we all knew Dalvin Cook was going to get released or traded. And yet you could have harvested that edge for months. There's still more out there, but once training camp gets going, maybe not.
Absolutely. Okay, this is a 12-team, 20 rounds serpentine draft. No kickers.
Yeah.
We got 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 2 flex, and a defense special teams. Tom, we're used to 3rd round reversal. We're used to team kickers as well, but this is going to be a lot of fun, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit of a difference from our regular online championship in the NFFC. Like you say, no kickers, no 3rd round reversal, another flex spot as well that Footballguys is thrown in there. So, going to be a lot of fun to see the twists and turns of this draft tonight. Sigmund will be helping us along to analyze all this, and looking forward to seeing the first live draft tonight. $350,000 on the line. Going to be a lot of fun to watch this one unfold tonight.
Absolutely. $350 entry fee. We pay the top 3 in each league in the Footballguys Championship. $1,500 for first, $600 for second, and a free subscription to the site for 3rd place. Again, like Tom said, $350,000 grand prize. We are shooting for 7,500 teams in this debut event. It's going to be a lot of fun. Sigmund, no love for kickers? Is that the Footballguys way? No love for kickers?
Yeah, well, if it was up to me, if the Super Bowl can come down to a kicker, then why not a fantasy football championship? But yeah, I think that we just want to keep our bandwidth on all the skill players, and that's why you add in another flex. And I think this is a new frontier. What's nice about being able to take the ball and run with it is we can be responsive. This is the first edition. And we want to continue to evolve and meet the needs of the fantasy football community like we always have. So it's really excellent to have another way to serve.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to have some fun watching the drafts here. We'll announce on some of the picks and analyze some of the picks. But Tom, what's real interesting is seeing the builds, right? We're seeing a lot of people sometimes go quarterback, wide receiver, sometimes going running back, sometimes wide receiver. In Jim Coventry's draft last week, 3 teams went running back, 3 teams went wide receiver, 3 teams went quarterback, wide receiver. Lots of ways to build a winning team this year, right?
Absolutely. And again, without 3rd round reversal, that's going to be very interesting to see how the builds unfold as well. So with a straight serpentine draft, it's going to be interesting to see these early rounds and how people decide to build their rosters, because without 3rd round reversal, that's going to change quite a bit. But certainly the top of the draft is not going to change much at all from our regular online championships, I don't think, tonight.
Yeah, and Jefferson's been going number 1 in most of our drafts. The RotoWire Online Championship, his ADP is 1.
Whoa.
Chase is gone either 2nd or 3rd normally. Now we got Tyreek Hill here. So again, starting out wide receivers pretty heavy, and now Cooper Kupp comes. Hey, one thing about this segment, we've got a lot of veterans in this draft, and they don't waste any time, do they?
No, it's good to have clarity. And hey, I mean, again, at this point, what's nice about this is everybody hasn't coalesced around a certain ADP. There isn't that orthodoxy. Everybody's still drafting a lot more on their own instincts. I think you end up drafting better that way than when you feel pressure to take a player because, well, now it's a round past ADP or 2 rounds past ADP. Everyone has agreed that's what this player's worth. The community hasn't exactly agreed what players are worth yet, except Justin Jefferson, number 1. That one seems to be 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the Footballguys Championship, we allow you to set your KDS. That's called Kentucky Derby style. And what that means is if you're picked first out of the hat, you don't randomly just get the first pick.
Right.
You can tell us where you want to go. So even though it's serpentine, Tom, there's still a lot of strategy in choosing where you want to be, right? Because not everyone wants to be number 1. Yes, Jefferson is a strong choice at 1. But hey, you may want Chase at 3 or Hill at 3, right? There's a lot of strategy still involved in picking your draft spot.
Absolutely. Well, and again, the change this year is what we're seeing is the top quarterbacks are going much earlier than we've ever seen before. So I also think that keeping that in mind, people may want to go a little bit later in the first round because they may be targeting one of those top quarterbacks. And then if you are targeting one of those top quarterbacks, who do you want to get in rounds 2 and 3 to pair with those elite quarterbacks to help you start your roster construction? So I think that's also something to keep in mind when you're setting your KDS preferences. Who do you want in the first, but also who do you want to get in rounds 2 and 3 to pair with that first round pick?
Absolutely. All right, Team 5 had a hiccup here, so we're waiting for him to come into the draft room here. Looks like we've got him, and he'll be making his pick. Sigmund, if you had the number 1 pick, would Jefferson be a slam dunk for you or not?
I think it's got to be Jefferson just because he came out of the gate as a rookie with an unprecedented level of production. And then very quietly, he upped that level. And it seems like the arrow is still pointing up for him. I think that it's going to be really interesting to see what he can do with a running mate in Jordan Addison, who's also on the way up. And you already mentioned Alexander Madison now carrying the mail for the running game. But I think Justin Jefferson is a player that we still haven't seen his ceiling yet. That being said, usually we see the number 1 pick as that consensus running back, which adds value because of the steeper drop off at running back, the shorter supply of running backs. So I do think that the number 1 pick, even with Justin Jefferson, pretty much a consensus number 1 pick, isn't worth as much as it has been in previous years. And that's why that Kentucky Derby style makes more sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Our Tom, Christian McCaffrey has an ADP of 2. In ours, he goes 6 right here. Kelsey goes ahead of him. I know you're not a fan of McCaffrey at 2, but gee, it seems like 6 is a pretty good bargain for him.
No, it's a great bar. I mean, I love McCaffrey in the top 3. It's just I really want one of those top 2 wide receivers this year. So I'm not anti McCaffrey, but I just love those top 2 wide receivers. But absolutely 6 for McCaffrey is an absolute bargain. Sigmund, how surprised are you to see McCaffrey falling all the way to 6 tonight?
Well, I think perhaps the splits with and without Elijah Mitchell may be giving people cold feet, building their team around McCaffrey. But then again, when has Elijah Mitchell stayed healthy for more than 3 or 4 games at a time? So I think that, and the funny thing is, even though McCaffrey is in a much more efficient and productive offense than he was in Carolina, he isn't quite as much the centerpiece as he was in Carolina. So there's still an incomplete track record of what he's going to be worth in that offense.
Well, we'll just say that in all of our RotoWire Online Championship drafts so far, the lowest he's gone is 3rd. So going 6th in the first Footballguys Championship is pretty interesting. All right, after McCaffrey went Austin Eckler, then A.J. Brown all the way up to 8. I could check if that's a high for him, Tom. CeeDee Lamb at 9. Patrick Mahomes, our first quarterback, at 10. And Stephon Diggs at 11. Now, quarterbacks get 6 points per passing touchdown in the NFFC, all of ours, including the Footballguys Championship here. Tom, we've seen certainly best balls, right? We've seen 4 quarterbacks go in the first round, and we've seen 4 quarterbacks go in the first 2 rounds in the RotoWire Online Championship. So it's not a surprise to see Mahomes there, right?
No, and he's kind of emerged as QB1 over Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. So that's kind of where he's settled into the first round. So I think we'll see the next 2 quarterbacks come off the board in this round. We'll see how it plays out. But yeah, Mahomes in round 1 has pretty much become a staple in our online championships in the RotoWire. So I think we'll see that in the Footballguys Championship as well. Sigmund, do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Mahomes being a solid first round pick this year?
Yeah, I think that in a 6-point pass touchdown league, that gives him that boost. We now know Tyreek Hill, who cares? He's going to manufacture those numbers. And unlike Jalen Hurts, unlike Josh Allen, who create some of their value with their legs, they also weren't there for us in the final weeks last year. Patrick Mahomes was. So I think that gives we're splitting hairs early in the draft, but that's what we do in fantasy football. So it makes a lot of sense to me for Mahomes. I think the interesting part then is who you try to stack with him, because there's a lot of different directions you can go with Mahomes to try to have a good offense and have those connections that boost you, because you're not just trying to be the best team out of your 12, you're trying to be the best team out of thousands to get the 350,000.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, the closeout round one is Bijan Robinson, and then was Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Adams. Mahomes gets hooked up with DK Metcalf, and then Garrett Wilson. I want to talk about Garrett Wilson in a bit, but Tom, Bijan Robinson, he was going third, fourth in our
Yep.
RotoWire Online Championship when we first started out right after the draft. Then he went to fifth. Then you saw him go to 13th last weekend, and now 12th again. Does it seem like this is the back end is where he may end up being?
I I mean, I find that hard to believe. I really got to think he gets pushed back up as we get closer and closer to the start of the season. We get into training camp. I think the hype will push him up. I think once people see him play, especially in the preseason, I think people will start being excited about him again. But I mean, I'm just surprised that he is going at pick 13 right now, but he is settling behind Eckler. People, I think, are feeling better about Eckler now that he's back with the Chargers. But again, Bichon at 12 feels like a gift to me.
Yeah, it kind of does. What do you think,
Yeah.
Sigmund?
Yeah, I think that we saw how well the Falcons ran the ball last year with Tyler Algier. Now you put someone of Robinson's talent, he's going to add a lot in the running game. Basically, he's going to get as many touches as he can handle. And that's exactly what you want. And unlike Eckler or even McCaffrey, who may be on the back nine of their career at this point, the best is yet to come. And we've seen these rookies, Ezekiel Elliott, Danian Tomlinson, who's a comparison for Bijan Robinson. I think he'd be used the same. It makes a lot of sense. And I even think that there could be a bump. I'm not a big fan of Desmond Ridder, but Marcus Mariota is one of the worst quarterbacks, not just last year, but in any year lately. Yeah. So you saw Atlanta go from 23 to 28 pass attempts a game. So they had more confidence in a third round rookie than they did in Marcus Mariota. So they're building this offense around Desmond Ridder, the offensive line, the skill players, 3 top 10 picks in a row. I think we're going to see a greatly improved offense. I think Arthur Smith actually knows what he's doing.
Yeah. All right. So A.J. Brown, he went at 8th. Tom, the highest he had gone so far in RotoWire Online Championship was 11. So we've got a max already, although this is the first one for the Footballguys Championship, but very interesting there. Garrett Wilson goes to team 9, Lamb and Wilson back to back. Then Jonathan Taylor picked 17, Saquon Barkley at 18. It's exactly where he went last week, and I talked about on the RotoWire show. That seems like a gift at 18. Eckler and Barkley is a hell of a start there. What do you guys think?
Oh, I mean, I would just say last year, isn't that about where he was going last year?
Yeah.
And there was a lot more injury, agnosticism, skepticism about him. There was more skepticism about the Giants. We hadn't seen what Brian Dable and Daniel Jones could do. So I think that you're getting him at a discount because it seems like after what happened last year, he should go higher than he did when we didn't know as much.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the only team that's going to start out running back, because nobody going forward can start out that way. So really interesting. Only one team going running back. We'll see how many end up going wide receiver. Our second quarterback goes off the board. That's Josh Allen at pick 22. We had Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, and Chris Olave there at 21. So I do want to talk about one guy, Garrett Wilson. He goes, 16th here. Rodgers is QB 16 going off the board in RotoWire Online Championship. If Wilson's going so high, shouldn't Rodgers be going higher? Or is Rodgers going too low, or is Wilson going too high? Tom, what do you think there?
Oh, good. Thanks for asking me. I mean, I love Garrett Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson is an absolute stud. I think Rodgers is going where Rodgers should be going. I think that's a fair question to ask about Garrett Wilson if he's going a little too high. I think maybe he is because I don't think Rodgers is going to just ball out and be the MVP Rodgers that people are just automatically assuming. Again, though, I do love Garrett Wilson. I think he is a tremendous talent. But wide receiver is so deep. There's so many great options. But I do feel like there's a little too much helium being built into Garrett Wilson. I mean, look at the wide receivers who went after him: Waddle, Smith, T. Higgins going all the way there at 3-1. I mean, these are really good. I mean, Higgins is a proven stud. I mean, I might be inclined to take all of those guys over Garrett Wilson right now.
Yeah, no, I just find it interesting because if your wide receiver is that good, then your quarterback has to be good, but maybe not. So, all right, Jalen Hurts is the third quarterback. He goes at pick 23. Interesting, the Chase owner could have taken Burrow. He could have doubled up there if he wanted to. Obviously, Hurts is projected higher than Burrow, but I always wonder when they take Chase that high if Burrow goes there because his ADP is about 26, so it's about where you could take him there. Nick Chubb runs out round 2 or rounds out round 2, and then T. Higgins starts round 3. Again, serpentine drafts, no third round reversal here, so we'll watch this. Okay, in the first 2 rounds, 3 teams started quarterback, wide receiver. 1, 2, 3 teams started wide receiver, and only 1 team started running back. So just an interesting mix here, and we'll see how it goes here. Derrick Henry goes at pick 26. Again, a guy who was going in the first round last year. We're not quite sure if we trust the quarterback in Tennessee. We don't know if we trust the offense in Tennessee. We don't trust if he can stay healthy. Tony Pollard at 27. Tom, that's your favorite guy, right? If you're at the end of round 2, that's probably who you're grabbing.
Yeah, I love Pollard. I mean, I'm a little concerned at the rumors that the Vikings, that the Cowboys might sign Zeke Elliott, re-sign Zeke Elliott before the start of the season. That concerns me a little bit, but I still love Tony Pollard. I think he's set up for a big season. I do think, again, as we get closer to the start of the season, his ADP is going to rise.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we're talking about Tony Pollard. Henry Muto's in here. We got an active chat board going right now, so I'm trying to keep up here. Sigmund, will Dallas re-sign Zeke, or where do you think he lands?
I don't think it matters. I mean, sure, they can. Yeah. But Dwayne McFarland was on my show last week, and he brought up a good point that, I don't know what Zeke's pay was like, $12 million. I don't know. A $12 million Zeke, you force feed him. You have to give him work. A Zeke playing at the veteran minimum, well, he's in to spell Tony Pollard. I agree with Tom that I think Tony Pollard should be around a late first, early second round pick. Running backs with his profile, because you see what he did with Zeke getting as much work as he did last year. Now, if Pollard gets that step up, and I know we have he's never done it before, right? He's not even at Memphis. I mean, he was not even remotely. He's never been a true workhorse back. Mm-hmm. But if he just stays healthy, I don't know how you're going to look back at him as a third round pick. You're going to see a lot of people winning their league if they continue to get him in the third round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Henry says Zeke's going to steal some goal line touches. Well, it's very, very possible. That's for sure. This third round, Tom, has been real interesting because look at the running backs that go here. You got to like Henry in the third round. Pollard's a good one in the third round, obviously. Stevenson usually goes at the end of the third round, but this guy could be a beast this year. Josh Jacobs was a beast last year. Najee Harris, I get it. He hasn't performed. We don't know if he'll get as many receptions, but third round seems like a bargain there. Now I see why people are going wide receiver to start out, right?
Yeah, I mean, I like Najee Harris. I mean, in the third round. I mean, he finished strong last year. So, I mean, if you do start off with the teammate did not because he took Jonathan Taylor in the second. But if you do start out with 2 wide receivers, you grab Najee in the third. I think that's a pretty good way to start. But I do like teammate with A.J. Brown and then Taylor and then grabbing Harris as your number 2. But again, Najee Harris in the third's a nice pick. I do like Jacobs. Stevenson is certainly set up for a big year. We talked Pollard. I'm with you about Derrick Henry. I think at some point the wheels fall off for Derrick Henry. Maybe it's not going to be this year, but who knows? But at some point the wheels are just falling off, and I'd rather somebody else deal with Derrick Henry and not put that pressure on me to make that call.
So it's kind of interesting because we have seen Joe Burrow go at the end of round 2. His ADP is 26 in the RotoWire Online Championship. We do not see him at this point. I don't know if it's the first draft of the season with quarterbacks at 6 points in the Footballguys Championship, but very interesting. I'm surprised he didn't go in round 3 here. All right. So at the end of round 3, Breece Hall, Sigmund, do you trust that he can come back from an ACL 10 months later and be the old guy, or are we concerned about that?
I think that you have to have some sense of the risk, but that's why he's there at number 36. Mm-hmm. Guys, if he had stayed healthy, he might be the first running back off the board, right? He might be a top 5 pick. I mean, he was headed there. So I think when you do the math and you think you can get him, that's a lot less risk. Look, I don't think the old saying is true, but you can't win your league if you blow your first round pick. That's fine. He's your late third round pick. And then again, when you're looking at it from a high stakes point of view, even if he does come out of the gate a little bit slow, getting back on his feet, if he's clicking by December, That's what you care about. If he's producing like a first-round pick and he's knocked off all the rust, this doesn't seem to be like a J.K. Dobbins kind of injury. There doesn't seem to be any warning signs. There doesn't seem to be anything peripherally, in so much as an ACL tear can be a simple or straightforward ACL tear. That's what this was. Everything, he's been hitting every benchmark, every milestone on his recovery. So in the high-stakes contest where you're trying to have the best team out of a large pool, it makes sense to me to swing for the fences with him.
Yeah, all right. Lamar Jackson goes in round 4. He's the 4th quarterback off the board. As Henry says, QBs have been very inflated this year compared to last year. Tom, do you agree that they have been inflated? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we used to
No,
not
there's
see
no
Mahomes go until the 4th or 5th round, and they've been inflated. We'll see if it continues, right?
Right, absolutely. I mean, I wrote the profile about Jason Sumner, who won our primetime this past year. He took Mahomes in the 5th round last year, and Derek and I were talking on the live stream we did the other night about how you were able in the past to team up Kelsey and Mahomes, and that was such a winning, successful stack. You obviously can't do that anymore with both going in the 1st round. But yeah, quarterbacks going so much earlier than they ever have before. That's because we just saw the difference that those top end quarterbacks made a year ago. They were just a tier apart from everybody else. You just couldn't wait and grab the 9th or 10th quarterback off the board and do as well as you could in years past. If you didn't have one of those top guys, it was a much harder path to success than it was in previous years.
Yeah, definitely. All right, talking about previous years, Tom, we didn't see this in previous years. 6 running backs in the first 24 picks, 12 running backs in the first, 36. Now we've added 5 more. So 12 running backs in the first 41 picks. I mean, last year you would see 9 running backs in the first round. Is this a changing year? Are we overreacting from last year? What are we seeing here?
I don't think it's overreaction. I think it's been something that's been coming because wide receiver, again, the quarterbacks are bumping up. So somebody's got to bump down, but also these wide receivers are more consistent. And we're not seeing, again, there's one thing. I mean, we don't have as many bell cow running backs as we used to have. We all know that. But also, more wide receivers are just more consistently scoring points. You're getting more wide receivers to get you 15 to 20 or even 20 plus points per game than you're getting out of running back. So I think it's easier to find a group of wide receivers that can get you maybe 15 to 20 or 20 plus points per game. And then you can lock in running backs to get you maybe 12 to 15 points per game and then sprinkle in something else at running back. Maybe you can find a McCaffrey or Eckler if you need or whatever. And that's the path to success that I think is more successful than having to load up on 2 or 3 running backs to get you there.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Mark Andrews went at pick 35, the 2nd tight end. Then TJ Hawkinson was the 3rd tight end at pick, 41. Hawkinson would be my 3rd tight end for sure. Sigmund, I want to talk about Team 7, took Jahmyr Gibbs here at pick 42. Seems like he's been going in the 4th round. This is a guy who could catch a lot of passes there as well. They obviously cleared open a spot with trading DeAndre Swift. Thoughts on Jahmyr Gibbs and him going at pick 42?
I won't argue with that pick because clearly Detroit has a plan for him. And this is a player who can obviously produce in the passing game. He was leading receiver for Bryce Young last year. He is a player who can take any touch to the house. He's going to be in an offense. I'm really excited about Detroit's offense. Those words have never been uttered in the 21st century, right? I'm really excited about this offense because you're adding in the 7th game, Jamison Williams. You're adding Sam Laporta. You're adding Jahmyr Gibbs. David Montgomery is an upgrade from Jamal Williams. And Jahmyr Gibbs is probably an upgrade from DeAndre Swift. I think the team sees it that way. They have a tremendous offensive line. Jared Goff can execute. In Ben Johnson's offense, this is year 2. And I think there's been a lot of talk that now that everybody's really fluent in this offense, we can start to do more. So I think this offense, which was already hyper productive and efficient last year, can take another step. And when you start to think about Laporta and Gibbs and Williams and the mismatches, Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I think it's interesting that Amon-Ra St. Brown is still going in the top 15 picks because it just seems to dictate with all of these other mouths to feed that there's no way that and I'm not saying, we've moved past that he just got production because there was nobody else to throw to, but I do think it reflects a belief that if the pie gets bigger, even if your slice is smaller, you can still produce more. So Gibbs is a really exciting player, and Gibbs could be one of those players, guys, come week 1, week 2, we say, oh, wow, he should have been a second round pick, because we've seen with these passing game backs, they don't need to have more than maybe 8, 10, 12 carries a game at the most if they're getting 4, 5, 6 catches, and if they're getting him in space on that fast track in Detroit. Remember, their defense isn't great. It's encouraging more high scoring games. I think we could look across the Detroit offense and see 2, 3, 4 overachievers when the dust settles.
Yeah, very interesting. All right, again, Burrow is not there. Henry predicted maybe he would be there. Oh, never mind. He didn't go that way. So very interesting that Burrow is falling this much. Okay, team 2, you got a chance to team up with Chase. Nope, not going to do it. No, I get it. But hey, Tom, I want team 6 here. McCaffrey, it falls to 6. Jalen Waddle, solid in the second round. Ridley's an upside guy there. And then Debo in round 4. I mean, Ridley could be huge. Debo could be huge. McCaffrey, there's a lot of upside on that team 6 right now, just saying.
I love that. I mean, I always like to see what McCaffrey teams do with their roster builds, and I love the team 6 build. I mean, you got McCaffrey, you don't have to go after another running back, and I really don't think there was a running back on the board that was worth taking there. I mean, maybe you could have looked at Pollard. I guess it certainly would have been an option to consider, but I like the heavy wide receiver approach after that, and he's got 3 really good ones. Waddle, I love Ridley. I'm all in on Ridley this year. And Debo in the 4th, I think, is massive, especially as a wide receiver 3. You're not paying the price for Debo this year you paid for him last year. And again, to get him as your 3, I think that's such a great price. Again, I love this build for what Team 6 is doing. We'll see what he does going here. He's on the clock right now, but I love this roster build.
Yeah, I like it right now too. And there Burrow goes at pick. What do we got here? 48 and 5, 53. Pick 53 for Burrow. Just going to see what his lowest in the RotoWire Online Championship is right now. Let's see. 38. 38's the lowest he's gone in all of our RotoWire Online Championships. He goes 53 here. So very, very interesting for sure. Let me just see. Aaron Jones goes at 49. We keep our eye on him. That seems like a bargain as well. ETN goes at 47. Christian Watson at 50. Listen, I'm high on Christian Watson, but all the talk you're hearing right now is Dobbs. Dobbs and Jordan Love have a connection going, and even the beat writers are talking about that. So while I love Watson, Dobbs' ADP is like around 130 or something like that. So keep an eye on Dobbs in this one. Sigmund, anything stand out so far? I know we're only in the 5th round here, but first time watching these and doing a live stream together. It's been fun so far, but anything stand out so far to you?
Well, I'm surprised that DeAndre Hopkins continues to hang around in the top 45, 40 picks because there's so much uncertainty. And I'm just reading the tea leaves. He didn't sign right away. And it doesn't sound like he's going to sign anytime soon. So I don't know that he found the market that he expected. Now, he's visiting Tennessee Sunday. He's visiting the Patriots next week. Those are situations where he'd be the clear number 1 receiver. But would he be worth as much as he was? You're hearing that around the league, it's word that he's lost a step. He's more one-dimensional as far as his usage. And I think when we see his contract, if he doesn't get the, say, $15 million that Odell Beckham got, who hasn't played football in a while, you really have to question that. So I think there's a big leap of faith taking Hopkins basically where he was going before he got released.
Yeah, in the Jim Coventry draft, Tom, you watched that one. Hopkins went 25th, and I talked about that on the RotoWire show. I mean, that was just way too high even then. Yeah. I said I couldn't take him in the top 50. He goes, 36th, 39th here. Again, he may land. Maybe New England's a good landing spot. That would be great. Maybe people are still hoping he goes to Kansas City. That's a possibility, but they don't have a whole lot of money under the salary cap to get there. So it'll be very interesting to see where he goes.
Yeah, I can't take him where he's being taken right now. I mean, again, look at the wide receivers going after him right there. Debo, Kirk, Williams, Moore, McLaurin. I mean, Marquise Brown, Pittman. I mean, I can't take him over those guys. Even if he goes to Kansas City or Buffalo, Buffalo, he won't be the number one wide receiver.
No.
Maybe Kansas City he would be, but he goes to Tennessee. You're going to instantly regret that pick if he lands in Tennessee. Trust me.
Yeah. I mean, it can work out, no doubt, and he has been going in the 4th round, so we'll keep an eye on him. Again, this is why we love these early drafts. We want to see where they go. We want to see where Dalvin Cook goes. We want to see where Madison goes. I mean, there's a lot that's going to happen before training camps open up, and that's why, I mean, Sigmund, right? This is why some people get into these early ones because they feel there might be an edge here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, I mean, the Madison case is a really good example of even when it seems like the hive mind is aware of something that we know there's a high likelihood of something happening, people like confirmation. And not until the confirmation comes will we get that. And then you brought up that situation with Green Bay. With all of the new offensive coordinators, the new quarterbacks, the new personnel, there isn't really a company line on how these players are going to be. I just saw Kenneth Walker go off the board. Well, we just had an item today that, hey, Zach Charbonnet absolutely could see a lot of work. And we start to divide up this backfield and you think, okay, maybe Kenneth Walker will get more early down work or more touchdowns. But if Zach Charbonnet is getting more of the passing down work, that looks pretty even to me. But when you look at the early draft spread, it is a lot bigger than anything remotely resembling an even split would indicate. So I think these are things that now come, say, urban training camp and Charbonnet and Walker are splitting first team carries in camp, that's gone. That advantage is gone. So this is the time to take advantage.
Yeah, definitely. People were upset when Charbonnet got drafted, but it was like, what did you think? Walker is going to stay healthy for 17 weeks and they're going to just make him the bell cow? Like they don't need somebody else? Of course they do. They had to get somebody else there. So, Sigmund, I'm going to ask you one more here. Kyle Pitts goes 61. He was the darling last year, going 33, 32, always going before the end of the round 3. And, of course, he disappointed. Are you back in on him at all, or is this offense just going to be spread all over the place that you just can't take a chance on it?
No, I think that's about right. I thought it was really strange, and I was leading the choo-choo train in his rookie year. In his rookie year, he was going in the 3rd round, and I was all about that because I thought, hey, we've never seen anything like this before. The first non-quarterback off the board. And just like we talked about with Jahmyr Gibbs, hey, Atlanta must have a plan for him. They did still have Matt Ryan, and he was disappointing, but he was still in the 3rd round last year with a worse quarterback situation. Now let's cue up the reel of Marcus Mariota missing Kyle Pitts open downfield, right? If Desmond Ridder can just be competent, and then you think about the advantages, again, this offense can create. Their offensive line is good. Their running game obviously is going to be good. They're in a terrible division, okay? They're going to play 6 games against New Orleans, Carolina, and Tampa Bay. They can win those games. They can get on track, and things can start to click and things can start to work. So I think in the 6th round, again, the risk is low. Everybody has blown a 6th round pick and won their league. And it gives you that high ceiling. It's always interesting too, to see where Waller goes off the board too, because I think Pitts and Waller both have within their range of outcomes, the number 2 tight end and giving you a big advantage. But at the same time, there's enough skepticism that they're dropping far enough that you can incorporate them into builds where you don't need them to hit. But if they do, now you're talking.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's talk about some of the builds. Team 11 has not taken a running back yet, but with this 2 flex spots, remember, you could have 5 wide receivers and 2 running backs, right? You could have 4 running backs if you want, and only 3 wide receivers. So there's so many different ways to build the team with this 2 flex right now. And I'm just going to say, Team 11, that's fine. I mean, keep going. You've got your 4 starters. You got 6 starters right now. You haven't missed anything right now. Am I right?
Yeah, I think it's great. Well, and if you can get, because like y'all talked about earlier, and PPR scoring, a wide receiver is going to be more consistent. So ideally, you get 5 wide receivers that you can count on every week, and then you just start throwing darts. And we see running backs emerge, running backs that aren't even on a roster. Jerick McKinnon, probably barely drafted in any league last year. He's a league winner, right? So that's all. Maybe later in the draft. It's, and like you said, seeing the team builds is so interesting because do the later picks reflect? It isn't just take a bunch of running backs later, but take a bunch of boom bust risk reward running backs, or maybe double or triple up on an uncertain backfield, and you just need that to resolve, get into the playoffs, get to the next round, the smaller tournament. And if you can just hit on 2 running backs that get hot in the playoffs, like Jerick McKinnon did last year, and you have those 5 wide receivers, that's tough to beat.
Yeah, definitely. Sigmund, it's all right if that cat wants to get in on the
She
live
loves it.
stream here.
Listen. She's an urban legend. She hides from everybody, but when I'm doing a show, she loves to get her pets, and she's a star on our show over Football Guys.
There's
Judy.
nothing wrong with that. I don't have one with me right now, but I have one downstairs when I'm not at home, so it's more than welcome to have on here. All right, DeAndre Swift goes at 72. Tom, you're hyping up him more than anybody. I'm not in on him, so in the auction you can have Swift, but 72, you're probably buying him at 72, right?
Well, yeah, and it's RB3 for this guy for Team One. It's his RB3, so I love it. And he comes back with Goddard again. Pieces of the Eagles' offense, the best team in the NFC. I love what he did here to back up Swift with Goddard and again load up on that Eagles' offense. Again,
There we go.
I don't think DeAndre Swift is 20 plus touches per game, but again, like Sigmund was talking about before, you get 4 to 5 receptions a game. You make those receptions count. They can help you get RB1 or high-end RB2 production, and this guy's is RB3. I think Swift is a great value where he's being drafted right now.
All right, Dalvin Cook goes at pick 74, 7th round. It's the guy's 4th running back. Again, he can start all 4 with the dual flex that we have in this contest. So, Sigmund, is that about where you thought he was going to go? What are your thoughts on Dalvin Cook right now?
That's interesting. I think that's I'm looking at Hopkins and Cook as similar propositions. So I'll take the Cook in the 7th. And I think that, again, this is one of those situations where you see some of the teams thrown out there. Buffalo, okay, Jets, that's that. Miami, now we're talking, right? Miami, that's the dream destination. And that was the team linked to Cook a lot around the draft, after the draft. So it's a calculated risk. And I think Cook is one of those eye of the beholder players, because you can still see him as a player who can break long plays for touchdowns. He's a good all-around back. He's a proven back, play through his injuries. He had those shoulder injuries repaired surgically. So hopefully that could make him a little more confident. But at the same time, he's a running back that's clearly on that downslope of his career. And we're still not sure what kind of reception he may not even be on a team when camp opens. His camp might decide, let's wait for a team to be desperate when they have a starter go down, and we're going to be able to really cash in. We're going to be able to pick our spot. It's really hard to know the logic that they're going to use. But seeing now here's something while I'm talking. Now seeing Madison go after him.
Yeah, I know. Right.
Now that's to me, I mean, Madison falling. I didn't even think about that, guys, while we've been talking. I expect Madison, he was going to start to be around a 4th round pick on this news. He's still going after Cook. So I love that for Team 8. And I also love that Team 8, like we mentioned, Najee Harris, Jonathan Taylor. Now, look, Jonathan Taylor was the #1 overall pick last year. Now, I know, I mean, hey, running backs get hurt, folks. It happens. Christian McCaffrey, even after all of his injuries, was still going top 3. So Jonathan Taylor, we're giving him that much of an injury discount because he had an ankle injury that didn't go away. And the quarterback play was terrible last year in Indy. James Steichen, we saw what he did with Jalen Hurts. You give him Anthony Richardson. I love these. I see this teammate also took Kadarius Toney. So I like this idea, because what you got are, like you said, these upside players. But if you can get these guys to hit together, now you're gonna have a team that's going to really be, again, tough to beat, and one that's going to be going on to the 2nd round.
Yeah, definitely. Team 8 taking a lot of upside there. I love Taylor at 17. There's no way he should be going there at 17. No. Najee Harris in round 3. Hawkinson, boy, we saw what he did with Minnesota. Justin Herbert seems like a bargain. And I was disappointed in Herbert. He only averaged 22.6 points per game in our scoring system. Again, Mahomes was over 30. That was a big drop, but he should be better this year, I would think. But I thought for sure that Madison would go before Cook. I really did. I was surprised, and I kept looking and looking. Did I miss him earlier or what? But I guess not. So while you were talking, we saw it right there. So interesting. Tom, did you expect Madison to go ahead of Cook as well?
Yeah, I did too. I'm with Sigmund. I expected him to go higher in this draft based on the news from today. But yeah, I can't explain why he's still falling where he's fallen. But at some point, he's got to start rising. And maybe people are skeptical that the Vikings are really going to commit to him. But I think at this point, they will. I mean, it sounds like the plan all along was for Madison to be their number one, that we knew Cook was going to get released or traded, but he wasn't going to be with the Vikings this season. So I got to think Madison's ADP starts to rise pretty soon.
Yeah, I think so too. Again, round 7, very interesting from the running back situation. Dalvin Cook, Cam Akers, David Montgomery, obviously signing with Detroit, now taking a back seat, but could still get some production. Alexander Madison, James Conner, and Isaiah Pacheco. Seems like value in round 7. That's because all the wide receivers are being pushed up. All right, Team 11 is on the clock right now. He's avoided running backs. This seemed like a round to get a couple of them, but hey, you got to have 2 of them. You got to have 2 of them here, so we'll see if he takes one right here. Deshaun Watson goes to start round 8. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ninth quarterback is Deshaun Watson. Sigmund, any hope for Watson this year?
A lot of hope. Well, there's some optimism now, right? I mean, there's some talk, buzz about Watson. He can't possibly be as bad as he was
No.
last year, right? I mean, it was Zach Wilson, numbers wise, bad. And I think that's why we didn't talk about Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb was falling into the 3rd round last year, and a month or 2 into the season, that was obviously a mistake. He should be back in the late 1st round where he was before, and here he is still falling to the late 2nd. I guess that indicates some pessimism about Watson regaining his form. There's also the possibility that Hopkins could end up in Cleveland. That connection has been brought up. I think the longer that Hopkins doesn't sign, we have to give a little more weight to that possibility, because we know that quarterbacks, the Lazard and Cobb follow Aaron Rodgers. We already know that Cleveland is fully committed to Deshaun Watson. So if Watson goes and says, bring me Hopkins, and nobody else is really willing to step up with a big offer, that could happen. That makes that offense even better. So I do think that while it makes a lot of sense that quarterbacks are going early, especially with 6 points for pass touchdowns, especially with the way that they were so far ahead of the pack, and the pack dropped off last year, I think that there's some emotional scars, guys, right? Like you were saying earlier, like if you took a Russell Wilson, you took an Aaron Rodgers, there were these Trey Lance, there were these quarterbacks you thought, well, I can wait at quarterback, and it blew up in your face. Well, now you can wait at quarterback and you have a bigger possible advantage if you hit, because other teams spent earlier picks. And hey, Deshaun Watson as quarterback 9, that sounds like a little better proposition than Trey Lance. So I do think that there's, we're going to see, and even Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, right? If we love Calvin Ridley, then we should love Trevor Lawrence. So I do think that there's an argument for going quarterback early, but I think because people are going quarterback early, that could make going quarterback later more attractive.
Yeah, you're right. There's still some good quarterbacks available. I was burned by Russell Wilson last year. Tom, you and I had him in the FSGA league. Never again.
Yeah.
I know it. I'm sorry. Sean Payton, good luck. Never again. No, I'm seriously, Russell Wilson could come back this year. He's a QB2 if you're drafting him, but oh my goodness, once you get burned by somebody like that, it's hard to go back to him again, Tom, right? We're not taking him ever again, are we?
I mean, the value would dictate if I take him or not, but I certainly would go into every draft this year saying I want no part of him. I do love Jerry Jeudy for what it's worth, because as bad as Russell Wilson was, Jerry Jeudy balled out and played great last season. But yeah, I mean, that was just, it was inexplicable how bad Russell Wilson was. But
Absolutely.
He's got to be better than he was a year ago, but I still want no piece of it.
All right, take it from here. I gotta go plug my computers off here. Javonte Williams, talk about him. He goes to start round 8. Sigmund, that was more than just an ACL. So tell us what you think about Javonte Williams.
Yeah, I would have been really pessimistic about Javonte Williams, but he was out on the field. He was doing football type movements. So that's something to be optimistic about. Although I think that's another potential place, at least has been named, linked to Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see the spread between Williams and Pirine. I will say, at least though, for Team 11 to break the seal at running back, that's the kind of running back you want to target, right? Not just somebody that has a high ceiling, but again, if you're all those early picks can get you through in the top 3 to the next round, and then Javonte Williams is rounding into form come December, you're excited. The other thing about Javonte Williams that's going to be interesting to watch, and I'll be interested to see where Perine goes off the board too, is it looks like almost every move, except for Marvin Mims in the second round, signals that Denver's going to be a run-heavy team. And doesn't that make sense, right? That Denver's going to take more off of Russell Wilson's plate. And they're all of the offensive line signings, even the tight end signing, indicates more emphasis on the run. So that's a reason to like Javonte Williams. And again, where was Javonte Williams going last year, guys? Late first, early second, like top 18,
second,
top 18, top 20.
Second.
And Melvin Gordon, Samaje Perine, I mean, not a lot has changed as far as the competition for touches. That's a really big injury discount. So that makes a lot of sense to me with that build.
Yeah, interesting. All right, Michael Thomas, here's another guy we're talking about injuries all the time. Hey, he's looking good in camp, although it's OTAs, right? We don't know if he can stay healthy, but Tom, 8th round, pick, 95 or something like that? What do you think of Michael Thomas? Worth a dart throw, don't you think?
I've been down this road too many times before. I'd rather throw the dart at Jameson Williams, even with the suspension, if I'm going to throw a dart at somebody. I don't feel very excited about Thomas at this point in his career. It just feels like we've been trying this for the last couple of years, and he just can't seem to get off that ankle injury anymore. So I'd rather let somebody else throw the dart at that one.
All right, there goes James Cook, Delvin's brother, to start round 9. So again, as we're looking at the board here, we're seeing some interesting things. We got Team 1 doesn't have a quarterback yet. Team 4 doesn't have a quarterback. Nobody's panicking. Team 6 doesn't have a quarterback. So we got 3 teams that don't have a quarterback right now. Team 11 is the only one that has just one running back, and that is Javonte Williams, who's a little bit injured as well. But as you can see, the builds are interesting. Again, with this second flex spot, makes things interesting for each owner to go in a different direction, if you will. We'll probably talk about this draft through around 13 or so, and then we'll finish it up. But Sigmund, we're hopeful to do this about once a week if you have some time, or if others at Football Guys. I mean, I think it's great content. I mean, here we are in June, and people are watching a live draft. We got over 30 people watching right now, and they can watch anytime on our YouTube channel. But this is what it's all about, right? We talk about projections. We talk about players. Hey, let's get your ass in a draft room and draft for $350,000.
Yeah, get some skin in the game. And I think for the people that are watching and following along, this is like mental reps, right? You're following along with the draft, and you can simulate really being just about any team on the board at any time. And you can understand, hey, okay, I'm going to take this player, this position, because I think by the time the draft gets around to me, I'll be okay the next round. Or, simulating if you're one of these teams waiting at quarterback, well, how far do you take the tank all the way to E, or is there a place where you draw a line? And the more those mental reps you do, when you do put your money up to take your shot at the 350K, you're going to be ready.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Nope. I agree with you. And that's why we love live streaming this, because people are sitting there going, I could beat these guys. I would have taken him here. I would have taken him here. Well, get on in. Get on in. And again, the Football Guys Championship has just been launched. Again, we hope to fill multiple drafts every night. I can't remember, Tom, do we have them at 8, 10, and midnight? I know that's when we have the RotoWire Online Championship.
8:10 and 11:55 p.m. Eastern. So again, we got slow drafts as well. So if you want to take your time even more making picks, you can sign up. Again, footballguyschampionship.com. Head on over there, sign up. You can get into a live draft like we're doing right now. You can get into a slow draft. We got discount options available as well with packages on registration. It's all there. footballguyschampionship.com.
All right. I love it. Some of the guys that are drafting are even chatting in here. So having some fun and playing for 350,000. This is the way to go. So again, having some fun. Listen, we've gotten 45 minutes. We're almost through round 9. I mean, these don't take that long. You're talking about an hour and a half. I know a lot of money is on the line, but this is what it's all about. It doesn't take very long to get through all of these. That's for sure. I think these guys are either trying to chat in here, or maybe it was a mistake, but we're glad to have you guys in this one. So keep chatting away. Again, 35 people in here right now. Thanks everyone for joining us. We're having some fun here. Tom, we're looking at tight ends. We didn't look at team 1. Again, you can start 2 tight ends if you want. Goddard and Ingram have some upside here. Do you think that's the plan there at Team One?
Well, it must have been, yeah, to go back-to-back tight ends with dual flex. You can certainly do that. And we know how good Goddard is in this offense, and Evan Engram certainly was very, very good in that Jacksonville offense last season. And there's no reason to think the Jaguars won't be as good, if not better, with another year of Doug Peterson coaching up Trevor Lawrence. I certainly like Engram a lot. So again, dual flex gives you a lot of options as different ways to build your roster construction. So I like the approach there. Again, there might not have been a running back or wide receiver that Team One really likes. So he decided, you know what, I'm going to go get another top end tight end, and Engram qualifies.
Yeah, and Jamison Williams, he takes after that then, and you were just talking about him before. Again, the big weeks are weeks 15 through 17. Another neat thing about the Football Guys Championship is they have their league playoffs also in weeks 15, 16, and 17, which is great because there's bye weeks in weeks 13 and 14. So another contest has league championships in weeks 13 and 14. That's tough. That's tough with 6 teams on bye in week 13. So this format, 14-week regular season, top 4 teams going to a league playoff in weeks 15, 16, and 17. If you had the most points, you get a bye in week 15. So you're closer to the money round. But that's a neat format. Sigmund, I like that an awful lot. And I think you guys did a great job with that.
Yeah, I think again we want to be responsive, and we don't have to be married to the way things have always been done, and we can also, we're going to come out the gate, we think, with a strong format, and we've made a lot of decisions that we think are player friendly. But when it comes to being player friendly, that means we're always going to be listening. And again, I like to think of Football Guys as we're one of the fantasy football expert analysis websites that just grew up out of the community. I remember back in the day on the message board, it was just about the proving ground in the message board. You saw all these names: Bob Henry, Jason Wood, David Dodds, Joe Bryant. You wanted them to engage with you because it was stimulating and it was interesting. And I think that being able to have a contest where it's not just that our name is on it, but also we can be the architects to make this something that is responsive to what the players want. It's exciting, and who knows what the future can bring with this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So for third place, you do get a subscription to FBG. Henry, if you already have one, you're not playing for third place anyways, right? You're playing for first place or second place. So the fact that they're giving a subscription to third place is good stuff, I think. But I hear you. If you got the overall lifetime, you're good to go. You do have one question. If you finish 4th in your league, correct. So we're taking the top 3 teams in each league into the overall championship. If you're in 4th place, you're in the wild card tier, okay, for the overall. But you can still win your league title. And, that's what the league playoffs are all about. That's why it started that way with WCOFF. You could still finish 4th in your league and still win your league title. Well, that's what you're playing for, because you finish 4th during the regular season. You can't win the 350,000, but you can still win 1,500. So yes, you are correct on that. All right. So Gibbs, are we updating on the board here, Tom? I didn't see
something happened.
Let's see if we can.
Looks like the draft board got on the screen isn't updating. I think you just need to refresh it. Oh, I think we lost Greg.
Well, the show must go on.
The show must go on, Sigmund. So we are in round 10. I think Greg just no. Now Greg's back.
Board here, so let me get you hooked up.
There he is. All right, Greg's back.
All right, hang on. I'm going to get the draft board. I'll get the draft board back. I had to refresh it. I don't know what happened there. I must have had a little hiccup here on my side here, but
okay.
Let me see if I can find the draft board. There we go.
Just to let folks know where we are in round through 10, Alan Lazard went off the board, Michael Gallup, Adam Thielen, Khalil Herbert, a couple of tight ends, David Njoku and Dalton Schultz, then Zach Charbonnet and Kendre Miller were the picks. Jacoby Myers just went off the board. There we are.
I got her updated now, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, every once in a while you get a little hiccup here. I'm actually at a cottage, so I got good internet, but Sometimes that happens. All right. Hopefully everyone can see we're almost through round 10. Again, 50 minutes in. We're 50 minutes in. We're halfway
Yeah.
done. So
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy, isn't it? Yes. Question again. PPR, 1 point per reception for tight ends. Absolutely. And that's the same in all the NFFC contests as well. But 1 point for tight ends. Speaking of tight ends, what do we got? We got several teams without one right now. What are
Mhm.
your thoughts on the tight end position this year, Sigmund? Would you go for the top guys? Is it deep enough to wait? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that well, there goes one of my favorite tight ends if you're gonna wait, Chiggy Okonkwo. But I think that Kelsey at number 5, I would even go Kelsey as high as number 3 or 4, depending on how you feel about the Rams offense. I can't really argue with Tyreek Hill at number 3. So let's say number 4, because Kelsey, the advantage he gave you over the pack, even without a tight end premium, is just one of those advantages that is hard to make up at other positions. I think in a PPR league, you were looking at about 6. I know that TJ Hawkinson finished pretty strong, but you were looking at about 6 points per game. And now, granted, Mark Andrews, after Lamar Jackson went out, underachieved. Kyle Pitts, underachieved. So it's possible that if these guys can stay healthy or their offenses can stay healthy, that you may not have that big of a gap. But I do think it's getting tougher and tougher to find that late round tight end. And you aren't necessarily just getting by when Travis Kelce's averaging 18, 19 points a game. If you have to face that team in the playoffs, if you have to overcome that team to get to the 350K, that's going to be really hard if you're relying on this. What's interesting about this draft, guys, is that 3 teams have doubled up on tight end.
Yeah.
And now, on one hand, I would say, geez, flexing a tight end when it's already tough as it is to get 12 tight ends that are startable. And there's another one of my favorites, Jawan Johnson. So let me just go off on a tangent here since we're talking tight ends. We already had the Michael Thomas talk, right? Hold your nose. No, I don't want it. If you don't like Michael Thomas, which is a valid, rational position, there should be somebody else you like. Now, Chris Olave is going in the second round, so that's his ADP, much like fellow 2022 rookie Garrett Wilson, Ohio State. He's basically going at his ceiling. But whether it's Jawan Johnson or maybe Rashid Shaheed, I'll be interested to see if he gets drafted. I like him a lot. If Michael Thomas is going to go down, Derek Carr's there. Someone's going to benefit. It may well be Jawan Johnson. Carr urged him to watch the tape of Julian Edelman. Johnson sounds like he knows exactly what his role is going to be in this offense. So I do think there are a few that you can pluck, but seeing Okonkwo in the 10th round, Johnson in the 11th, you probably need to be prepared to take them around earlier than that. If you want to make sure you get them, you need to have a plan if you're going to wait at tight end, because I think there's a lot more counterfeit tight ends with not much hope than ones who really can pay off.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I fumbled the tight end position the last several years. I stayed on Ingram too long, didn't draft him last year. I just seriously, I was just terrible last year with the tight end position. Tom, I had Ertz for a while, which was good last year, but I mean, it was just a tough position. And when you're seeing those top tight ends, like you say, getting 18 points, or in Kelsey's case, almost 20 points, it's tough. Tom, how are you handling the tight end position? Because we play baseball and it's like getting that second catcher. You think you can find one later in rounds and it just never happens.
Well, first of all, I don't think you were alone in that. I think
No, I
again, if
know.
you didn't draft Kelsey, yeah, if you didn't draft Kelsey last year, you were throwing darts at the wall because even the other guys, Andrews went through, some down periods. Goddard got hurt, so it was a rough go for pretty much everybody who didn't have Kelsey. But I mean, I'll certainly go in on Kelsey if I'm sitting in, a 4 to 6, 7 range. I have no problems with that. He's earned that. If I don't get Kelsey, I'm probably laying off. I won't be in the Andrews Hawkinson tier. I love Hawkinson, but I'm probably not going to invest there. I think I'd probably drop down another tier and be looking at the Goddard, Ingram, Pitts, Waller range in that area. I think I want to get more exposure in that area. I love Goddard again. I want to get pieces of that Eagles offense. I like the Jaguars offense. So I'll probably be in on Ingram. And even though Darren Waller scares the bejesus out of me because we all know the deal there with him and his inability to stay healthy, I do like the fit with the Giants. And I'm probably going to dive in again and just hold my nose and pray to God he can stay healthy.
Yeah, I think it's a good fit with the
Yeah.
Giants. I do too. And unfortunately, Tom, 2 years ago, we were at the opener against the Raiders. We
Yeah.
dropped like about 9 passes. And it's like, oh boy, this doesn't look good. And it didn't look good for the rest of the year, unfortunately. Anthony Richardson goes off the board in
Wow.
round 12. Sigmund, thoughts on Richardson? That's the
Yeah.
second QB for Team 9, but Fields and Richardson, he's got some running quarterbacks at least there.
Yeah, and we're watching Team 4, who hasn't taken a quarterback yet, and I wonder if they were hoping to get Richardson, because I think that you have to at least be open to the possibility. Again, we saw what Shane Steichen did with Jalen Hurts. Now, it took 2 years, but you have some pieces with Pittman. They got Josh Downs, who's a really excellent vertical slot. They've got Alec Pierce, who is making big plays downfield. They've got Jelani Woods, massive red zone target. Um, Anthony Richardson, we saw it last year. Guys, Justin Fields was an atrocious passer. I mean, as far as his production, and the passing game for Chicago was terrible. And, come mid-season, he was helping people win for a lot of those weeks in the second half of the year. Anthony Richardson is the best athlete we've ever seen at the quarterback position as far as measurables. And he also, with Shane Steichen, I think you're going to see shots downfield. I think that Richardson is going to get a chance to learn on the job. I think there could be some rough weeks, but guys, a rough week for Anthony Richardson could still be a 25-point week for fantasy football, because a rough week means they're going to be in a hole, right? So I look at Anthony Richardson, and I think if you're going to wait at quarterback, we talked earlier about, hey, Deshaun Watson is the 9th quarterback or Trevor Lawrence is the 7th quarterback. Waiting a quarterback, I think it has to include Anthony Richardson. Is when it's the 12th round pick, when it's Dalton Kincaid, Donovan Peoples-Jones, the defense went off the board in that round. I mean, that's a tremendous pick.
It's interesting. It'll be fun to watch what he does this year. That's for sure. Team 4 didn't hesitate. He didn't take a quarterback that round either. So we'll see what Team 4 does. He's the only one without a quarterback. You do need one in this game format for sure. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to wrap this up pretty soon. It's been a good hour, and it's been a good kickoff for the Footballguys Championship. Sigmund, we appreciate you spending some time with us. Let's do this again. I mean, why not do at least one a week with this format, huh?
Yeah, I look forward to it. And I think anybody watching this has to be champing at the bit to get in one of these drafts, because every round there has to be at least one pick that you think, wow, that he's still on the board. I would have taken that. So again, the ADP has everybody isn't following the herd right now. You can be out there as the Lone Ranger, and you can put together a team right now that you probably won't be able to put together in 2 months.
Absolutely. So the ADPs will start coming after we have 5 of these drafts. Then you'll be able to find them at playfootballguys.com/ADP. That's the way it'll be. So, Tom, I think we're going to do a RotoWire Online Championship on Tuesday. We're going to talk to Nelson again and see if we can't get either him or Vlad or somebody at FTN Fantasy. So we'll do the RotoWire Online Championship again. Similar draft board, exact draft board, but a little different format. We love both formats. We think people are going to love both of them. So we really appreciate it. But if you're up for it, Tom, I think we'll do it again next week.
Absolutely. And again, just want to let the folks know you can sign up for one of these live drafts, but we also got the slow drafts as well. Footballguyschampionship.com. Head on over there. Like Sigmund was saying, if you're looking at this draft board and thinking I can do better than these guys, well, prove it. Sign up for a draft, get in, and take aim at that $350,000 grand prize.
Absolutely. So we're going to have some fun. It's just June 9th right now. We got a lot of summer ahead of us, but get used to these live streams. They're a lot of fun. We enjoyed all the chat that you guys gave as well, and we're going to have fun with this. So from me, from Tom, from Sigmund, thank you all for joining us. It's been fantastic. We'll see you next week. All right.